One of the big questions for the upcoming book is, what is Varys' role? Now, there's been a lot of talk and videos on Varys and Illyrio, or Varys as a conspirator and involved in all kinds of plots, but one little thread has not really been explored that much, which is his connections to Qyburn. And there are two major thoughts. Now, we know from the show that they ultimately did not follow this up, but there was a lot of conspiracy theories that maybe that Varys and Qyburn were somehow connected, or working with one another to take down Cersei and help Dany for their own purposes. As we know, the show didn't pursue that, but there's still a lot of thoughts that this is a storyline that George R. R. Martin is going to pursue in his books. But there are really two different theories. One is that Qyburn is spying for Varys, but I think the second one is much more likely, although it seems fantastic, which is that Qyburn is Varys and that Varys is Qyburn. That's not to say that Qyburn never existed or was not a real character with his own independent existence, but that at a certain point in time, Varys basically killed Qyburn and replaced him and has been sort of advising Cersei in his place, disguised in plain sight, and that very much fits Varys as a kind of trickster and master of disguise and spy master. But let's go through the evidence. So perhaps the biggest one is the role of the little birds, especially in the show, that they switch their allegiance a little too quick and too easily. Like, why would they suddenly go from one spy master to another? Unless, of course, Varys had already planned this out and had made an agreement with Qyburn that the birds would start working for him at little cost because they're both working together. So that's a major issue that is never really resolved, why the birds suddenly moved to Qyburn's side without any distraction or any cost. So it would seem that it's likely that Varys had a pre-agreement with Qyburn to use them for his own spy network. Another piece of evidence is, of course, the Illyrio angle, where Illyrio has been helping out Dany, as well as doing things behind the scenes with Khal and the others to keep things going. And of course, we know from Qyburn's own psychology that he's very much into conspiracies. He had a history with the Maesters and has been known to dabble in necromancy. Now, Varys himself is anti-magic, but again, there is some evidence that his anti-magic stance is not absolute. Rather, he's really against the Red Priestess kind of magic. He's against fire god magic, but he's not against magic per se, and that would sort of be... So one could imagine that he's just made an agreement with Qyburn that most magic will be exiled, but Qyburn's form of magic will be exempted, and he'll be allowed to keep his experiments as a cost of his service. The problem with the argument that Qyburn is working with Varys is that this goes against Varys' own kind of methodology, that him and Illyrio want to keep as few people in the loop as possible, that they like spying on the maximum number of people, but the actual minimum number of people within the conspiracy is very, very, very small. Even with the case of young Griff in the books, it's not clear that Griff is who he says he is, as opposed to what Illyrio and Varys are telling us. It could be he is Targaryen, but not through blood, but by legitimacy. So at least even the people who are supposedly benefiting from the conspiracy don't really know entirely what is going on. So it just stands to reason that Illyrio and Varys would not trust even a loyal person with their conspiracies. So the most likely argument is that Qyburn, if he is involved, has been killed off, and Varys has just taken his place directly. And we do see in various parts of the show, and more in the book, that he is able to disguise himself as other people rather easily. Now, his own physicality doesn't fit Qyburn, at least not exactly, but again, it could be within Varys' power to change his appearance well enough that Cersei doesn't notice. And of course, Cersei is very narcissistic, so she might not notice these sudden physical changes as long as Varys knows enough to keep up the story. Now, I myself like Qyburn. I would be disappointed because I want to know more about him and Marwyn, but it would seem very much in Varys' MO to sort of kill off Kevin and kill off other people to keep the secret and basically sort of advise Cersei in kind of plainly, openly, and yet manipulate her. And that's very much Varys' way of doing things. So I think the Varys is Qyburn theory is much stronger than Qyburn is working with Varys. But when we look overall, they do have a lot of overlap in terms of their plans, in terms of what they want, which is to take over and have real power behind the scenes and look like they're helping the rulers, but really be helping themselves and sort of be this power broker behind the scenes and, rely more on spies and secrets and manipulation than over force and just raw physical power. But again, this obviously has problems because it gives Varys way too much power, way too many abilities, but we do see at various points in the books and even on the show that Tyrion is always surprised at how much Varys knows, and also how quickly he gets to physical places, meaning that he knows a lot of secret passageways. He knows King's Landing in ways that even Tyrion does not, and he's been the only one who has stably been moving from council to council, moving from the Mad King to Robert and then to Cersei, and not missing a beat, and that's extremely rare within the series, either in terms of the books or the shows. So it seems that Varys is doing a lot more than we know, not just with Illyrio, but he has a lot of plans and a lot of secrets that he's still not revealing to us or to the reader. So what do you guys think? Is this another fan theory that's just not been borne out by the events, or has Qyburn been working with Varys the whole time, or more likely the way I think that Varys is Qyburn, and the Qyburn we're reading about now is really just Varys in disguise? Alright, this has been GRRM and Thrones Analyzed. If you like the content, please hit the like button and or subscribe. GRRM Analyzed, thank you for listening and have a good day.